Okay. It's so good to connect with you.
You too.
Um, yeah. Julie, I want to hear all about your journey. As you know, I'm about to start doing this course on living a life that you love, loving yourself, and finding the love of your life. And I don't know anybody who has as beautiful story as you of seeing that you were not on track and loving yourself, turning it around, doing the work, and then creating the most beautiful love with your champion.
Oh, thank you.
So I want to, there's so many people as I talk to them, asking them questions about what's blocking them from love, that I hear so many people have lost hope.
Mm,
And so I want to speak with you to give people hope
mm,
and to they are empowered and they can change this and they can
mm.
transform the situation and create a love that just completely uplifts and stimulates their lives. So maybe we can start with your turning point when you got to 41. What were
Mm,
you seeing around you?
mm. Well, I'd probably at that age, at 41, I was still single. And, well, I'd never been married. So I'd never had children. I'd had relationships. I'd had a couple of relationships that I'd, lived with, neither for more than 1 year each. And always knew that neither of them was the right one for me. But here I am, 41, and my dad is saying, "Jules, you're not getting any younger. Like, were you seeing anyone? You're not getting any younger." I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I know." But I think I've always been the kind of person that, yeah, I'm not the kind of person that would just go into a relationship just for the sake of going into a relationship, just so that I can say that I'm not single, or so that I'm not alone, because I know many people in relationships that are in fact very lonely, and so that was never an attractive option to me. I
Is
didn't.
that what your folks were like growing up?
Well, yeah, they married when I think my mum was 20, my dad was 22. 2 years later, I came along. 2 years later, my sister came along. All I really remember is them fighting, as we were growing up, and eventually it got to the point when uh, my sister and I were teenagers. She was 13, I was 15, and they finally separated and divorced, and that was good for everybody. And they're still amicable and friends today, but they get on much better now than they ever did when they were married. So I didn't
Yeah,
have that as a
yeah,
role model for what I wanted in partnership. I had it for a role model of what I didn't want. And
yeah.
so, maybe some of those formative years were impactful in me actually almost being avoidant to getting into committed relationships and into intimate partnerships, because I was afraid of being controlled. I was afraid of being in a relationship with some man who was going to tell me what to do and how it was going to be. And I was a very independent
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
person, and I left home at 21 and moved to Sydney from my hometown of Newcastle in Australia, which is about 2 hours away. So it was like moving from a country town kind of to the big city, which was a big thing. And, I then proceeded to throw myself into my work. And, I was in my 20s and very career oriented. And then I started my own business and became even more career oriented. So I very
Ah,
conveniently became, a work addict. I had a work addiction. And I didn't know it at the time. I just thought I was, being having a good work ethic. Thought I was having a good work ethic, and I
yeah,
think I see a lot of people doing that. Is throwing themselves into it because it can be a very good distraction from
yeah,
not having to deal with a relationship that isn't working if you're in one, not having to get involved with a relationship because you're too busy, or just not wanting to face the truth that you really genuinely are lonely and want to be with somebody. And
And did you feel that emptiness? Or were you
I
so busy
felt,
you didn't even notice?
no, I always really wanted partnership. I really always did want to be in partnership with somebody, but I didn't, I just threw myself into my work because that helps push aside and distract from those feelings of loneliness and the truth of how I was feeling. It was like any addiction, right? Well, distract you from your real feelings. It will take your
Absolutely.
alcohol or drugs or, gambling will give you a rush, or pornography, or whatever people are into. It just gives you a rush that will take you away out of your feelings, and that's what workaholism and busyness was for me. And I think eventually, so I had my before my husband Mark, now we've been together almost 5 years. We've been married for almost 4. And prior to that, I'd been single for 7 years before I met him. And so my last relationship before him ended. I was 35, and it ended very badly and very painfully, to the point where I had decided to start a new company, and I'm just like, that's it, I'm not having a relationship this next year. I threw myself into my work again. But it was also, I just needed time to heal from that experience. And I was fortunate that I knew a woman in Australia who was, she was a therapist who was running workshops on all kinds of, family of origin, relationships, creating the life you want. And she would do them as these weekend workshops. So I started out with the relationship workshop thinking, I'll just go in there for 3 days. I'll just knock this thing on the head and I'll be all good to go with a new relationship. So I went and did the weekend workshop and sat there and was just like, oh shit. I think I am realizing now why I've been so throwing myself into my work and my work addiction and avoiding the intimacy, even with myself, let alone with a partner. How can I have intimacy? And I'm not just talking about physical intimacy. I mean emotional, spiritual, connected intimacy with a partner.
You didn't love yourself.
No, I didn't, because I was abusing myself through my workaholism and my busyness, and and through that I wasn't taking care of myself physically as well as I could, and it was just busy. Just my life was just busy. Didn't have space and time for others, and friends would stop inviting me places because they'd be like, well, she's just busy anyway. I thought I was so important, because I thought that the company would fall apart if I wasn't there, and thought I was so indispensable. So, it's pretty humbling when you leave jobs, though, and you start to realise that, no, actually, the company still went on without me. So it was a good realisation to have. But I did this weekend workshop and realised the thing that I think was the most powerful thing that hit me on the first weekend workshop was, you are 50% responsible for your relationships and how your relationships show up. And it was very easy for me to think that my previous bad relationship was more my partner's fault because he was unfaithful. So, of course, it's much easier to place the blame on somebody when they've cheated and done the wrong thing to you. And I do that in inverted commas because it's like, well, how, what was my part in that? And that's difficult to do that, to face the truth of what is my part in this relationship's failure and success. Because it's 50%, it's 50% of everything. And it might be that, well, I didn't really pay attention to the red flags early on. I didn't really know myself well enough to know what I wasn't willing to put up with or, take on in a relationship. I wasn't clearly enough aligned with my inner values, my core values, to really make good choices on. And I was too caught up in this person that was just totally into me and thought I was the best thing. And all of that attention and affection and flattery is very seductive. And he wasn't a bad person, and it wasn't untrue. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's so great what you say, because I think so many people think, like, how did that happen?
Oh,
but we don't notice the red flags.
Oh,
so what I'm wanting to do in this course is to get people to see, doing their relationship history, where were the red flags in the beginning, in the middle, and the end?
Yeah.
So that you get better at being able to notice on the first date, this guy is
even
not
before,
good for me.
Just in an email, I can read profiles and online dating and just go, oh, read in between the lines and just go, oh, this one, oh, just don't touch that one with a 10-foot pole. But you are absolutely right, because it was that, because I had been involved in personal development, spiritual development for years, for probably 15 years. And I'm like, how can somebody like me, who has been so into all of this, how can I have ended up in this dysfunctional, emotionally abusive relationship that completely just literally just like left me in a heap on the floor. How can I have? So I did a lot of beating myself up. There was a lot of self-flagellation, a lot of really just like, how the hell could you have gotten into this situation? So I
Oh,
think a lot aside from having to learn to forgive him, because he was his own injured self dealing with his own stuff, and I my discernment wasn't strong enough and well developed enough to be able to mature and healthy enough, perhaps, to be able to say, you know what, this guy's really not ready for a relationship. He's got some healing to do, and I'm not going to go there. But I did. I jumped in,
absolutely.
and so when it finally did end, I think I realized, and then I did this course and realized, oh my God, I'm 50% responsible for this relationship and all of the other relationships that haven't worked out. So, but I think the hope, you talked about hope, is just that, well, like I said, I'd been involved in personal and spiritual growth and development for 15 years, and I'd been able to create all sorts of things in my life. Created a business, I moved to another city, created a whole new life, and the kind of homes that I wanted, or the car that I wanted, or the vacation that I wanted. So I was always able to do that by putting in the intention and the thought and the energy and the steps, because you know what you want to do, where you want to go, and you go about doing it. But when it came to relationships, I think I was fortunate that I did have that belief that, okay, well, if this isn't working, what do I need to do to change it, to fix it? Because I really do want partnership. And even though I loved my business and I loved my work, I was also, on some level aware that I was kind of distracting myself from what I really wanted. And I think having kids wasn't really that much of a high value for me, because I think if it had been, I would have made different choices in my life at a younger age. I would have been looking for Mr. Right in my 30s, not starting a new business. So I don't, now at 46, don't feel anything like, okay, that boat's passed and now I can't have kids. Well, that was not my choice in this lifetime. So I'm very comfortable with that. But I really did want partnership. I really did want to be with not just any man, but the right man, the one that I just know, just in every cell of my body, is just the one that's meant for me. And so I'd always written intention letters and vision letters and all of those kinds of things you learn in all of these books
How
and
did you
workshops.
shift from that thing of what you were saying of
Mm.
you weren't discerning?
Mm.
Because one of the things that I want
Okay.
to help in the course is from people to get to being the chooser. So they're not
Right.
just accepting what they programmed.
Yeah.
So how for you, what was your journey like? Because often a lot of people who haven't had a good, healthy role model in a father
Yeah.
are not discerning. So people who've had
Right.
alcoholic fathers or abandoned fathers, or, you know, um, fathers who were unavailable or worked too hard and didn't engage with the girl,
Mm.
she doesn't know how to choose a healthy father. So how did you
Mm.
shift from that, I don't know what is a good guy, and choosing
Right.
guys who have affairs, to here's a champion? How did you go
Right.
from there?
Well, I started out by reading books. So I would, read books trying to learn. Like there was one book that I read, I don't even know if it's still available, called The Zen and the Art of Falling in Love by Charlotte Castle. And that I remember very distinctly. It had pages like, oh, here's red flag behaviors. And I'd be reading it going, oh my God, how could I not see that then? But I see it now. But I think we've all had relationships where you're really in it, and then when you're out of it, you just go, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And then, so that was helpful. And then as I said, I did that program in Australia, which led to a lot more work and that very deep healing work on family of origin issues, and where is that all set up in childhood, and therapy, group therapy and one-on-one therapy, where I was able to really work through that. And it did take time, but I also, I think when I felt strong and healthy enough, I started doing online dating again. And
Just before you get to that, did you do stuff on forgiving and working through the issues with your dad? Did you ever communicate with him about what happened and what you
in
needed and what you didn't get met?
in the therapy, there was a lot of that in the therapy and the classes and the programs. They're very intensive workshops. They're mostly 3-day intensives. They were at the time. I don't think they are now, but and then there was, I think, a 5 or 7 day long 1 week intensive on the family of origin issues. And so that's where that really got tackled on on a very deep level, because absolutely it's formative, because there are situations and memories and experiences from way long ago where it creates a belief system in you, and so yeah, there was a lot of forgiving I had to do with
And
my
that's the thing.
family.
Yeah,
Well,
a
with
lot
my
of people don't
family,
get to that point.
no,
They don't, and they think that it's just this asshole who's having an affair and it's him, rather than going back and going, oh, my family didn't give me the love that I needed to know what love I deserve.
I think
And so when you
that's
get the love,
really
you
it.
think, this is all I deserve.
Well, that is
Rather,
all comes back to worthiness, doesn't it? And what you deserve and worthiness, because yes, I probably wasn't getting that, and so when I was getting anything, I was just grabbing onto it and
yes,
holding onto it,
yes,
and because
yes.
oh, this is what I want. But it really wasn't a healthy kind of relationship, in not anything like what I'm blessed to have now. But that's why when I was on my fourth date with Mark, and I took him to a barbecue with some Australians that I know in Boulder, and one of the girls said, when we left, she said, you're really lucky. And I said, yes, I am, and you know what? I worked really hard to be this lucky, because I really wanted to make the point that Mr. Champion didn't just fall into my lap out of the sky because, I happened to look up and lucky me. Maybe that happens for some people. I don't know. It didn't happen for me, but I worked really hard, and I don't want to minimize that, because I worked hard and I'm proud of that. And it was difficult and challenging at times, but it was also rewarding, because when you get on the other side of it, you go, we're all going to go through pain in life anyway. We're all going to face challenges and difficulty. But if you can learn where it comes from, what you can do to heal it and move through it, and have the hope that there's something on the other side that is even greater, which is sometimes really hard to feel that way when you're in that point of despair, like I was, right? So I was, 35, this relationship had ended, I was just, that's it, done with relationships, so I'm just going to focus on my business, throw myself into my workaholism. And then I got to the point where it was 2007, so I was maybe 38, and I was like, you know what? No, I really, really, it was like my heart was aching. I really want to be with my partner, with my husband, and but
Did that
I
distract you from your work? That ache?
no, it didn't distract me from my work. But what happened is, I think when you really want something, you have to make time and space in your life for it. You have to make it a priority. If your priority is to have a career and be successful and make lots of money, well, you're not going to get there by sitting at home and watching television. You go and you study and you get educated and you do the work and travel the career path to get there. And I think the same thing happens with your relationship. You have to make it a priority. And I know many people that are single that would love partnership, but I also, from the outside looking in, and it's always easier when it's on the outside looking in, but I see myself in them, my old self. And I say, you know what, your life's very busy. And, you know, maybe you need to create some space for your partner to enter. Oh, I'll make space for the right person, or I'll make space when the right person comes along. And I'm like, yeah. From the outside looking in, I just look at your life and I feel the energy is very busy. And I remember I didn't get that at the time either. I didn't get it until I got it. And so when I got it, all of it, it was like a light bulb went off, and I was just like, oh my God, like I could suddenly see what I couldn't see before. And I would have guys telling me, you're too busy for a relationship. And I'd be like, no, I'd make room for the right guy. I've had not one, not